Welcome back everyone, and thanks for joining us today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable, mind-bending, and jaw-dropping stories in the entire world of rare coins, a story that has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who dream of discovering life-changing wealth in the most unexpected places. And today we're going to explore the incredible tale of the 1976 1-cent coin that has been rumored to be worth an astonishing $90 million. Because of a combination of errors, mistakes, oddities, production quirks, and mysterious possibilities that elevate it far beyond the realm of ordinary pocket change and place it into the mythic category of once-in-a-lifetime numismatic legends. And as we unpack what makes this particular coin so mesmerizing, so valuable, and so desirable, we're going to journey through the intricate world of minting errors, the fascinating history behind the 1976 mintage period, the unusual circumstances that may have contributed to the existence of these rare anomalies, and the layers of speculation and collector obsession that continue to surround this coin even decades after it first left the United States Mint. And whether you're here because you're a seasoned collector who understands the nuances of coin grading and minting processes, or simply someone who finds it thrilling to imagine that a small copper-colored disc could hold enough value to buy a mansion, a luxury car collection, or even a private island, this story promises to pull you in deeper and deeper as we unravel every known detail and every rumored oddity that has built the legend of the 1976 1-cent piece that supposedly reached a mind-blowing value of $90 million. And as we begin, it's important to acknowledge the historical setting of the 1976 minting year, a year filled with national celebration, production pressure, and highly unusual transitions at the mint, because 1976 was a monumental year in American history, marking the United States bicentennial. And while special bicentennial designs were created for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins, the humble penny continued with the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse. Yet the unique circumstances of the minting environment during that period created a fertile ground for errors and anomalies that would later fuel stories of astronomical valuations. And among the countless billions of 1976 pennies produced, a very small handful are believed to possess extreme and extraordinary errors, such as double dies of dramatic severity, off-metal strikes caused by leftover planchets intended for other denominations, wild off-center strikes that reveal missing design elements, ghosting effects from misaligned dies, broad strikes that expand the coin beyond normal dimensions, transitional planchet mistakes involving unexpected metal compositions, and even the fabled possibility of pattern coins or experimental pieces accidentally released into circulation. And when collectors talk about the $90 million 1976 penny, they are generally referring to a theoretical combination of multiple impossible-to-replicate errors all occurring on the same coin, something so astronomically unlikely that its very existence would be comparable to finding a diamond the size of a bowling ball in a gravel driveway. Because to reach that kind of value, the coin would need to embody a convergence of minting mistakes so extreme that it belongs to a category of ultra-rarities that only appear once in many lifetimes. And so we must explore these errors one by one, starting with the double die phenomenon, which occurs when a coin's design is impressed more than once in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect that can appear on the lettering, the date, or the profile of Lincoln himself. And on a 1976 penny, such doubling could be especially dramatic if it involved deep, clear shifts, making the coin appear almost like a hologram of overlapping lines and contours, and collectors would go wild for such an error, especially if it was crisp, bold, and undeniable to the naked eye. And we then look at off-metal errors, which are among the most valuable mint errors in the world because they involve a coin being struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime planchet, a foreign coin planchet, or even an experimental alloy test piece from the mint's internal research. And if a 1976 penny were accidentally struck on a copper, nickel, bronze, silver, or aluminum planchet, that alone could elevate its value into the hundreds of thousands or even millions, especially if the mistake was documented, authenticated, and preserved in high grade. But the rumor of a $90 million value implies something far beyond a simple off-metal strike, and instead suggests a combination of multiple off-metal anomalies happening together. And that level of complexity brings us to another category of errors that might contribute to such an extreme value: the rare and dramatic off-center strikes that expose large missing sections of the coin's design, where Lincoln's profile might be shifted so far upward, downward, or sideways that only a portion of his face appears while the rest of the coin shows a blank field where the die never made contact. And if this occurred simultaneously with a broad strike that prevented the coin from forming properly within the collar, the result could be a bizarrely enlarged, distorted, and captivating coin that looks like a surreal piece of art rather than a standard circulating penny. and collectors love such errors, especially when they display multiple defects in one strike. And yet the legend of the $90 million penny does not stop there, because speculation also suggests that the coin may involve an ultra-rare transitional planchet error, one where the mint accidentally used leftover blank metal discs from earlier years or test batches. And because the mid-1970s were a time of significant experimentation at the mint due to rising metal costs and research into alternative alloys, it's entirely possible, at least theoretically, that a handful of strange test planchets existed in the mint's inventory, and if even one of them found its way into the production line for 1976 pennies, the resulting coin would be so rare that its existence would shake the numismatic world. And when you add the possibility of die cracks, cuds, lamination errors, and striking mistakes all together, you get a coin of almost mythic proportions, a coin that embodies not just one category of error but a constellation of anomalies, and that is precisely what fuels the imagination of collectors when they consider the idea of a 1976 penny valued at $90 million. Because rarity in numismatics is not just about scarcity but about the perfect combination of unusual features, flawless timing, exceptional preservation, and intense collector demand. And the rumor mill often spins stories of incredible finds discovered in spare change, inherited collections, old jars, and metal detecting hunts. And while many of these stories exaggerate or distort the truth, the possibility of extraordinary errors hiding among billions of normal coins continues to inspire treasure hunters of all ages. And the 1976 penny story thrives on that sense of mystery, that hope that something unimaginably valuable could still be hiding in a forgotten drawer or a dusty box, waiting for the right person to recognize its worth. And as we continue digging deeper into the concept of a $90 million penny, we also explore why collectors place such high value on certain rare coins, because the world of numismatics is driven by passion, competition, discovery, and the thrill of owning something that almost no one else in the world possesses. And the more unique and dramatic a mint error is, the more fiercely collectors chase it. And in the case of the 1976 penny, the idea that a piece with such extraordinary characteristics could exist makes it one of the most talked about speculative rarities in modern folklore, and the possibilities extend even further when we consider the condition of the coin, because for a penny to reach astronomical value, it would also likely need to be in exceptional condition, perhaps uncirculated or nearly flawless, with crisp details that elevate the errors to museum-quality clarity. And coins in pristine condition already fetch high prices even without dramatic errors, so when you combine a high-grade state with multiple once-in-a-lifetime anomalies, you get the kind of coin that could break auction records and become the centerpiece of elite private collections. And collectors love mystery coins that defy explanation. Those coins that make experts scratch their heads and debate how such a piece could ever have left the mint unnoticed, because these mysteries add depth to the legend and make the coin's story as valuable as the coin itself. And the 1976 penny rumored to be worth $90 million embodies the kind of mystique, a blend of myth, history, speculation, and possibilities layered on top of one another until the coin becomes larger than life. And as we reflect on the incredible world of rare pennies, especially those from the 1970s, we see that the fascination isn't just about the physical metal but about the stories these coins carry, the journey they take. From the minting presses to pockets, drawers, collections, auctions, and sometimes the global spotlight, and the 1976 penny has become a symbol of what people hope to find, a reminder that hidden treasures might still be out there, waiting to be discovered by someone who simply picks up a coin and looks a little closer. Next. 1979. Today we are exploring the incredible story of the 1979 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and treasure seekers around the world with its jaw-dropping estimated value of $61 million, a price tag that seems unimaginable for a simple penny until you begin to uncover the hidden details, strange minting anomalies, accidental production quirks, mechanical mishaps, and rare combinations of errors that turn an ordinary copper-coated piece of metal into a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic marvel. And as we walk through this astonishing tale, you will find yourself questioning how a coin millions of people handled without noticing could suddenly rise to the level of legendary status. So settle in as we explore every possibility, every mechanical chance event, every historical decision, and every microscopic imperfection that contributes to the unbelievable value of this tiny artifact, and why collectors today chase it with the same intensity as they would a lost treasure chest buried centuries ago. Because the story of the 1979 1-cent coin worth $61 million begins with a whirlwind of unusual circumstances surrounding the change in minting technologies, metal compositions, and die maintenance practices that the United States Mint was navigating during that period. And although 1979 is not typically listed as a major transitional year like 1982 when the switch from mostly copper to zinc occurred, the groundwork for many mechanical adjustments and minting experiments was already happening behind the scenes, and it's in these quiet shifts and unexpected test strikes and unusual die interactions that some of the rarest errors imaginable were born, making it possible for a single surviving specimen to gain a mythical value based on its combination of anomalies, starting with the possibility of an off-metal strike, where the coin might have been accidentally produced on a leftover foreign planchet, a copper-based experimental disc or even a transitional alloy blank. And while the mint officially denies producing any unusual metal compositions during this year, collectors know that several accidental off-metal strikes have surfaced in other years when leftover materials from foreign contracts or experimental metals slipped into regular production lines. And if a 1979 1-cent coin exists with a unique metal composition that is verifiably different from standard copper alloy, that alone could drive its value into the tens of millions due to the extreme rarity and the impossibility of replicating such an error. But metal composition is just the beginning, because another extraordinary possibility is the presence of double striking or triple striking, where the coin might have been hit by the dies multiple times either in perfect alignment or slightly rotated, causing overlapping images, ghost outlines, doubled letters, shifted dates or distorted Lincoln profile features that collectors obsess over, and a perfect storm of multiple aligned strikes can create a visually stunning and nearly impossible anomaly that instantly elevates the coin to masterpiece status, and in some rare cases, if the multiple strikes are combined with an off-metal planchet or an improperly annealed blank, the effects become even more dramatic. And such a combination might explain why a single surviving 1979 example could attract the astronomical figure associated with it, but the potential for a broad strike error also plays a major role, because if the coin was struck outside the retaining collar, causing it to expand into a wider, flatter, almost medallion-like shape, and if combined with an incomplete design transfer or a partial collar error, the result would be a visually mesmerizing piece unlike anything commonly seen from the period. And collectors are known to pay extraordinary premiums for coins that show perfect broad strike anomalies with symmetric expansion and crisp texture, and if this is layered on top of a dramatic die clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, imprinting faint mirror images of the opposite design onto the coin, then the uniqueness becomes almost unbelievable, and die clash impressions can vary dramatically depending on the force, angle, and wear of the dies, producing anything from soft outlines of Lincoln appearing on the reverse to ghostly features of the memorial structure appearing behind Lincoln's head on the obverse, and a spectacularly deep and well-defined die clash pattern is one of the most beloved errors among top-tier collectors, and if a 1979 1-cent coin carries a die clash pattern so unique and intense that it surpasses all known examples from the decade, that alone could drive its value skyward. But the possibilities continue, because a coin could also gain immense value from a wrong die pairing, where a 1-cent planchet is struck using mismatched dies intended for another denomination such as a dime or even a foreign coin. And mixed denomination errors are among the rarest discoveries in numismatics, because they require a perfect combination of mint worker oversight, mechanical alignment, and planchet misfeeding, and in the rare event that a 1-cent blank went through a press fitted with dies intended for an experimental strike or incorrect denomination, the resulting hybrid coin becomes one of the rarest artifacts imaginable, and if authenticated, collectors would fight intensely over such a piece, easily pushing its auction value into 8-figure territory and possibly beyond. But another major contributor to extreme coin value is the existence of a mule error, where the obverse is from one design type and the reverse from another, and while mule errors are almost non-existent in the Lincoln cent series, the few known mule coins in other denominations have sold for millions because they represent minting accidents that should be statistically impossible, and the idea that a 1979 1-cent coin could show a mule pairing involving perhaps a foreign reverse or an experimental reverse pattern elevates the rarity to a level that explains why $61 million is not only plausible but practically expected among elite collectors. But striking errors alone do not tell the whole story, because die deterioration, polishing marks, die cracks, die breaks and cut errors also contribute to the mystique, and some of the most eye-catching errors involve massive die breaks that cause large raised blobs of metal on the coin surface, forming unusual shapes that collectors nickname and obsess over, and if a 1979 coin features a dramatic full cut on the rim or covering a portion of the memorial building, it instantly becomes iconic, and the bigger and cleaner the cut, the more desirable the coin becomes. And a legendary full rim to center cut on such a coin might be enough to push its value into historic territory. But another factor That transforms an error coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure is its level of preservation, because if a coin with all these errors survived in near-perfect condition, perhaps even graded at the highest levels by major grading services, that alone would multiply its value exponentially, and it's not unrealistic to imagine a scenario in which such a coin remained untouched in a collection for decades, preserved accidentally by someone who had no idea it held monumental significance, only for it to be rediscovered in pristine state and authenticated as a one-of-a-kind specimen combining multiple rare errors, which is precisely the kind of numismatic storm that can lead to an impossible price tag, and the 1979 year in particular creates fertile ground for these possibilities because the mint was producing billions of coins at rapid pace, utilizing machinery that was pushed to its limits, and whenever production is rushed, errors slip through more easily, and with so many coins passing through the system, even one extraordinary mistake could go unnoticed for decades until emerging in the hands of an astonished collector or at a high-profile auction. But what makes the story even more fascinating is the possibility that the $61 million specimen is the only one of its kind, a solitary survivor from a batch of catastrophic minting errors that were otherwise caught and destroyed by mint employees, leaving just one example to escape into circulation, and the survival of a unique mint error always multiplies its value because rarity is the ultimate driving force in numismatics, and when rarity is combined with visual brilliance, historical impact, minting mystery, and mechanical impossibility, the price soars, and that is exactly the kind of perfect storm the legendary 1979 1-cent coin represents, drawing obsessive attention from experts, bidding wars from major collectors and global recognition as one of the most valuable small-denomination coins ever rumored. And the mystery deepens with speculation that the coin might even include a dramatic rotated die error where the reverse is turned at a bizarre angle relative to the obverse, and rotated dies of extreme degrees are incredibly collectible, especially when combined with other errors, and if the angle is so perfect, so strange, and so clean that it becomes visually striking, it could further elevate the coin into the realm of multi-million-dollar artifacts. But the layers of possibility don't end there because the coin might also feature a rare design anomaly caused by early use of experimental dies, slightly altered relief heights, misaligned lettering, or subtle engraving differences caused by die repairs, and these features. Next. 1984 D. Today we are unraveling the captivating story behind the 1984 D 1-cent coin that collectors claim could be worth an astounding $45 million because of its bizarre errors, mysterious production mistakes, and the rare circumstances that surround its creation. And as we explore every detail, from striking anomalies to minting peculiarities and the fascinating possibilities that contribute to its supposed sky-high value, you'll discover how a coin that most people would overlook could hide a fortune, how small imperfections can create massive desirability in the world of numismatics, and why the 1984 D penny continues to spark excitement, debate, and speculation among collectors around the world. So sit back and let's get into the unfolding mystery of this coin's legendary status and the maze of factors that elevate it from everyday currency to an icon of numismatic fascination, beginning with the era in which it was produced, because understanding the environment of the United States Mint in the mid-1980s is essential to appreciating how such errors could have been made, as this was a transitional time when the mint was adjusting to the relatively new copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982, and this change created a wide range of problems related to bonding, plating, die preparation, and overall quality control, which means that any 1984 D penny could potentially carry errors caused by technological limitations of the era, and one of the most famous errors linked to 1984 pennies, including Denver Mint coins, is the doubled ear on Lincoln's portrait, a dramatic and highly collectible variety where Lincoln's ear appears to have a ghost-like duplicate outline, caused by a misalignment during the hubbing process, and while the most famous doubled ear variety is associated with the Philadelphia Mint, reports, rumors, and discoveries of minor or partial doubling on some Denver-struck cents have fueled excitement and speculation. And when even slight doubling occurs on a coin with a mintage as large as the 1984 D, it can create enormous potential value if the doubling is strong, unusual, or appears in combination with other anomalies, and this is where the story becomes even more interesting because some collectors believe that a tiny number of experimental or unconfirmed doubled ear specimens from the Denver Mint may exist, coins that could be so rare that only a handful, or possibly only one, ever surfaced, and if such a coin exists, the value could skyrocket into the tens of millions purely because rarity, uniqueness, and historical significance are the greatest drivers of extreme coin value, but beyond doubling errors, the 1984 D penny is also notorious for a range of dramatic die cracks and die chips, especially around the date, the mint mark, and the corners of Lincoln's coat, and these die breaks can produce raised metal formations that create unusual shapes like blobs, extra metal protrusions, or ridge-like scars, and although die cracks are common, extremely large or uniquely shaped ones can become major attractions for collectors, especially if the break extends across important design elements or forms something visually striking that distinguishes the coin from all others. And then there is the well-documented issue of plating bubbles caused by poor bonding between the zinc core and the thin copper plating, which can cause tiny blisters to appear on the surface of the coin, sometimes in patterns that mimic extra features, create distorted lettering, or produce strange visual textures on Lincoln's portrait. And while most of these are considered minor errors, dramatic or oddly placed bubbling, especially near the date, eye, or ear, could turn a coin into a highly desirable collectible, especially if the bubbling interacts with other errors, forming a combination that collectors have never seen before. And combination errors are one of the biggest engines of multimillion-dollar valuations because the rarer the mix of mistakes, the more mind-blowing the final price can become. And some 1984 D pennies have been found with off-center strikes, where the design is shifted significantly from the center, sometimes exposing blank planchet areas, and extreme examples, such as a coin struck 50% off-center yet still showing the date and mint mark, are considered extremely rare and valuable, and when paired with die cracks, doubling, or misaligned dies, the value can increase dramatically because these layered mistakes are nearly impossible to reproduce intentionally and often exist in quantities of only one. And then we move into the mysterious world of unverified experimental planchets, because rumors have circulated for decades that a few 1984 D cents may have been mistakenly struck on leftover bronze planchets from earlier years or on foreign coin blanks. And while the mint officially denies such occurrences, history has proven time and time again that rare mistakes like the 1943 copper cent or the 1977 aluminum cent do happen despite official denial, meaning that the possibility of a 1984 D coin struck on the wrong metal cannot be completely ruled out, and if such a coin exists, its value could easily reach or exceed $45 million due to its once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And collectors know that wrong planchet errors from the 1980s are exceedingly desirable because they combine historical intrigue with extreme scarcity. And another possibility is the existence of broad-struck 1984 D pennies, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to expand outward and appear pancake-like, a visually dramatic error that instantly catches attention and can be worth thousands on its own. But again, if combined with something like doubled features, an incorrect planchet, or a major die break, the value could skyrocket beyond imagination. And when you consider all these overlapping possibilities, doubled ears, die cracks, plating bubbles, wrong planchets, off-center strikes, broad strikes, misaligned dies, and even possible mule errors where mismatched dies are used together, it becomes clear why collectors believe there could be a single 1984 D cent with a constellation of errors so rare, so unbelievable, and so historically significant that its value could soar to $45 million or more. And what makes the legend of this coin even more exciting is that many such rare coins are discovered not in auctions or private collections but in pocket change, old jars, inherited boxes, or random flea market purchases, because error coins do not announce themselves, they lie unnoticed for years, sometimes decades, until someone finally examines them closely under proper lighting or magnification, meaning that someone somewhere may already hold the legendary multimillion-dollar 1984 D penny without knowing it, perhaps mixed in with hundreds of ordinary coins. And beyond the physical errors, the historical context of the Denver Mint in the 1980s adds layers of intrigue because this was a decade full of minting inconsistencies, experimental adjustments, and periods of immense pressure to produce massive quantities of coins at high speed, which inevitably led to quality control oversights, rush die maintenance, and accidental anomalies that today fuel collector fascination. And because the 1984 D penny was produced in extremely high numbers, the likelihood of obscure, undocumented, or 1 in a billion mistakes being struck and released into circulation becomes much higher, and this abundance increases the probability of mint workers overlooking rare errors that slipped into the public's hands without ever being recorded. And this is where value speculation truly ignites, because a coin's worth is not only determined by condition or metal content but by rarity, desirability, historical context, and the level of collector demand. And the 1984 D penny has built a reputation that blends all these factors together into a perfect storm, a coin from a chaotic minting era with known varieties, rumored super errors, high public interest, and a passionate numismatic community driven to uncover the rarest anomalies. And as stories spread about extremely valuable pennies hiding in circulation, more people become invested, more collectors search, and the myth of the $45 million 1984 cent grows, fueling speculation that one day, if the right coin surfaces, its value could exceed even the wildest estimates, as we have seen with other era coins that set shocking auction records despite being obscure or unknown just years earlier. And it's this combination of reality, possibility, myth, and history that makes the 1984 penny such an iconic subject in the rare coin world, because even if most examples are worth little more than face value, the dream of discovering a unique treasure keeps collectors motivated, excited, and engaged, and the existence of extreme outliers in numismatic history proves that extraordinary coins often emerge unexpectedly, so the idea of a $45 million 1984 penny is not as far-fetched as it might seem when viewed through the lens of rarity economics, minting history, and collector psychology. And as you explore your own pocket change or coin collection, remember that every rare coin discovered began as an overlooked object, every multimillion-dollar treasure started as a mystery waiting to be solved. And the story of the 1984 penny is a reminder that the world of coins is full of wonder, surprise, and endless possibility. Today, as we dive into another incredible story from the world of rare coins where ordinary pocket change can suddenly become the kind of treasure that sparks excitement, curiosity, and hope in collectors around the world. And in today's video we're exploring one of the most talked about and unbelievably valuable United States coins, the 1978 1-cent coin that has gained legendary status with claims of being worth an astonishing $27 million because of the extraordinary and highly unusual errors and minting mistakes that potentially occurred during its production. And as we dissect every possibility, every flaw, every mint anomaly, and every strange detail that has been rumored, speculated, or documented to exist on certain 1978 cents, you'll see why some versions of this otherwise regular penny could in extremely rare circumstances reach astronomical values that completely defy expectations, because while most 1978 cents are common, plentiful, and usually worth only face value, a tiny handful of extremely unusual examples have been whispered about in coin collecting circles, sometimes turning up in private sales, sometimes appearing in small reports, and sometimes only known through the descriptions of collectors who swear they held something so bizarre that it shouldn't have existed. And that's where the mystery of the 1978 penny begins, because 1978 was a year when the U.S. Mint was still producing Lincoln Memorial cents made of copper, weighing 3.11 grams. And the minting process, while highly controlled, was far from perfect, and any misalignment, wrong planchet error, double strike, off-metal production, or die deterioration could create a unique coin. And collectors today are always hunting for those one-in-a-million mint blunders that transform an everyday penny into a priceless artifact. And perhaps the most fascinating category of errors involves wrong planchet strikes, which occur when a coin is mistakenly struck on a blank that was meant for another denomination, such as a dime, a foreign coin, or even an experimental alloy that was never meant to enter circulation. And for the 1978 1-cent coin, this opens an entire world of possibilities, because the U.S. Mint at that time produced multiple denominations, each with their own metal composition and weight. And if a copper penny die accidentally struck a blank intended for a dime, that coin would be lighter, thinner, and made of an entirely different alloy, instantly making it one of the rarest known mint mistakes. And there have been historic cases in other years where such errors sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, so it's not impossible that an ultra-rare 1978 version could be valued far beyond even those numbers when factoring in demand, condition, and provenance. And then there's the possibility of a transitional planchet error, one of the most sought-after and expensive types of mistakes in numismatics, usually occurring when the mint shifts compositions and some leftover planchets from a previous year accidentally get used the following year. And while 1978 itself was not a year of composition change for the penny, there are theories that leftover experimental or test planchets used during internal trials could have been fed into the production line, creating a coin that no one was meant to ever see. And if such a coin survived and was discovered today, it could easily reach valuations that exceed $27 million simply because its existence would challenge mint records and rewriting the historical understanding of coin production in the late 1970s. And another major category of high-value mint errors is double dies. And while most collectors are familiar with the famous 1955 double die cent and the legendary 1969 double die, Many do not realize that double die errors can theoretically appear in almost any year, including 1978, if the conditions align in such a way that the die shifts between hubbings, resulting in strong doubling on the date, the lettering, the word liberty, or even the motto. But what makes this intriguing is the possibility of an extreme double die in 1978 that has not yet been widely documented, perhaps known only through rumors, private ownership, or limited appearances. And if the doubling is severe enough, and if the coin is preserved in extraordinary condition, the value could skyrocket to unbelievable levels, especially because collectors crave unique varieties, and a previously unknown major double die from 1978 would instantly become one of the most monumental discoveries in U.S. coinage history, driving demand, bidding wars, and speculative valuation into territory usually reserved for legendary coins. And then we have off-center strikes, which occur when the blank is not seated properly in the collar before being struck, creating a coin with part of its design missing. But in extreme cases where more than 70% of the coin is missing and the date remains fully visible, values can reach tens of thousands of dollars. And if that off-center strike overlaps with another error such as a double strike, a clipped planchet, or a wrong planchet situation, the value exponentially increases. And that's where the story gets fascinating, because some collectors believe that a 1978 penny exists that was not only struck off-center but was double struck on a foreign planchet, possibly creating one of the rarest, strangest error combinations ever produced. And if such a coin exists, its rarity would be so extreme that its perceived value could easily reach $27 million or more, because rarity combined with error complexity creates the perfect storm for astronomical worth. And continuing with mint anomalies, we must investigate die cracks, cuds, retained cuds, and die breaks, which can occur when the minting dies begin to deteriorate or fracture, causing raised metal lines or missing areas of the design on the coin. And while most die cracks are minor and worth little, a massive die break that obscures major portions of the design, especially on the 1978 penny, could become a highly sought-after variety, especially if it affects the portrait of Lincoln, the date, or the memorial reverse. And when such dramatic breaks appear on early strikes rather than late-stage worn strikes, the coin can become incredibly valuable, because the sharpness and clarity of the break illustrate the rare moment the die catastrophically failed. But what pushes the value even further is when a dramatic die break occurs in combination with other errors, creating a multi-error coin so unusual it almost defies belief. And collectors pay huge premiums for these multi-error coins because they represent events that are practically impossible to replicate. And then we must consider the possibility of broad strikes, coins struck without a restraining collar, causing them to spread out unnaturally, giving them a wider appearance with distorted rims but fully centered design elements. And if a 1978 penny somewhere out there is both broad struck and struck on a wrong planchet, it could create a hybrid error of such rarity that the value could leap from thousands to millions instantly. And now we move into another fascinating possibility: proof-like and unintentional proof strike errors, where a regular circulation coin is accidentally struck using proof dies or is struck multiple times with polished dies, creating an unusually reflective mirror-like surface even though the coin was not part of an official proof set. And if a 1978 penny with such features exists and also carries a significant error like a double die or off-metal strike, collectors could consider it one of the most valuable accidental proof errors ever made. And combining this with a unique minting flaw, perhaps a die polish line that creates unusual textures or shapes in the coin's background, could elevate the interest and value even further, because collectors of rare pennies cherish anything that makes a coin visually unique, historically intriguing, or minting process mysterious. And then we must examine environmental and post-mint influence theories that sometimes create confusion among collectors, because some coins appear unusual due to chemical exposure, high heat, or plating errors, but in rare cases coins have left the mint with partial plating or incorrect thickness of plating, especially in experimental situations. And although the 1978 cent was a copper coin rather than a plated zinc coin, there are theories that a small test batch of plated coins could have been produced in preparation for future composition changes. And if even one of these experimental pieces escaped into circulation, its rarity would be indescribably immense, instantly driving collectors into a frenzy. And when supply is effectively 1 or 2 coins maximum and demand spans the entire collecting community, valuations reach breathtaking amounts, sometimes breaking records and defying all logic. And that leads directly into the possibility of a mule error, one of the rarest minting mistakes of all time, where the obverse of one denomination is paired with the reverse of another. And while extremely unlikely, the theoretical chance that a 1978 Lincoln cent obverse could have been mistakenly paired with another reverse die, such as a dime or foreign coin reverse, is not impossible considering historic examples of mule coins that have surfaced in other years.